Hey everyone, welcome back. It's been a while. Sorry about that. It's mostly my cousin visited, and then last week I tried to do this video and it was a disaster. But I've since learned a lot. We're gonna do some cool stuff. Um, so the title, where did it go? Advanced states and chain attacks. So what does that mean? Well, chain attacks, as you probably. Oh, I meant to have some stuff open. There's a So you have something like Bayonetta where you can do like punch, kick, punch, 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 kick, things like that. And, it ends up creating this sort of complex web of like, you do punch or kick, and so your possibilities split there. And then even from those 2 points, they can split further. And managing that can be really hard. And in my struggles on Wednesday, I since learned about and it seems really obvious in retrospect, but like node-based editing, um, tree view type editing, or displays for data. Like if you've used RPG Maker, you have all those folders, or just even just familiar with like a folder hierarchy. That's one way to look at it. And I sort of tripped myself up thinking you had to sort of have like a nested class, but really it's a little more basic than that. It's you'll have sort of just a pool like you would any other class, like a pool of instances, and a list or array or whatever, and then you just sort of you manage it from there. And that's like the trick, is to like not necessarily have them inherently nested. It's just to have a big pool, and then you display them the date like data wise that they're nested. So here's our little move list editor. It's real similar to Mecanum. You can even use Mecanum. I've heard people doing this, and all the stuff's there. It's just I find it hard when you have, in my own testing, when you have multiple animators on someone. I don't know. There's probably a way to do it, but we made one, so let's just use that. Try and check the chat because we are streaming late, and probably a little more likely to have viewers. Check the thing there. Looks like we're live. Sure the mic's going okay? Alright, sweet. I did mute it for a bit because I was a little clogged up from allergies. So, a few things to cover first. It wouldn't be a culture tech stream if we weren't going all over the place. So, two sort of big changes I made that I didn't get to do on stream are command states, and I may have covered this sort of in a video, but I kind of like fleshed it out better. And these raw inputs. When I was implementing this, I was even like, this is so dumb. Why am I doing it this way? But I can't think of like a way to do it. And it's really obvious. Like, it was just stupid. So in our core data, like we have, it's just, our raw inputs. And we'll update this instead of just being a bunch of strings. So it's just a list of strings, but now it's saved in our core data instead of, we just had it as a hard-coded, what you call it? It was hard-coded list. And so yeah, we did that. And then we have these command states, and they've gone through a few changes. Because again, I actually worked on it pretty good on last week on Wednesday, and then it was just kind of a failure. And I was like hyper emotional, like I was going through some stuff, like my cousin visiting, and anyways, it didn't go so hot. But I'm glad, like, what I've come up with today is, I mentioned before where, I say the word dread sometimes, but I am excited that, this stuff will sort of surpass and obsolete the stuff I have on my current game. And this one's pretty fudging cool. Why else this is cool is because for the longest time we've just been using the inspector over here, but we have like a separate editor here. Anyway, I've meandered again. So command states, basically we have our regular character states, right here, and these are more like the actual actions, like our jump and our attacks and our dash and dodge and things like that. And so our command states are sort of, I don't want to say substate because these are kind of substates too. Command states are things like grounded, an aerial, and a lot of games like that might kind of be it. There might be some other stuff. Maybe like if you're guarding or you're in hit stun, maybe you want some special cases. If you wanted to totally manage everything about the character in the move list, then you might have more of that going on. So it's basically just a simple check here. You know, it's like if we're in this state, they're pretty, I don't know how to say it, not generic. You know, there's going to be some wildly different things as to why you're in like a certain state or not. And so we just have this thing called get command state. For now, I just made a simple flag aerial within the command state. Oops, just F12, not shift F12. Class, and then it just checks if our own aerial flag on our characters to see if we're in that state or not. So that's like a simple check. Others are going to get more complicated, or they can. We may not necessarily get to that, but so you know, we just go through all of our states. We actually only have one right now, and if our aerial flag matches that, then we set our command state to that one. We also default to 0. And so once we do it, I want to not get too far ahead of myself, but we make a new state and make it aerial, and then there's a flag in here where we can say, you know, if it's aerial or not, right here. And this is going to get more complicated, or it could. You know, honestly, it doesn't have to be. It just depends on your game. So anyway, basic thing is it checks that, and then from there, so we have these command states, and then we have, let's see, these command steps. Substate might be a better term. I went through like a lot of different things. They were called chain steps at first because that's kind of what the purpose of it was. But then as I developed this more today, I'm like, you know, this can handle everything, which is what we want. That's good. So we have this, and we'll look at over here. Look on the right-hand side first. So we have our command states, and then we have these steps, and there's substates. We'll might even rename it before I upload it. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of code in here. I worked on it for like, not over the course of 2 weeks, but pretty good amount last week on Wednesday, and then all day today. Honestly, thought I was going to stream at like 11, and then it is 8 p.m. right now. So all these are basically substates. And another way I tripped myself up was thinking that I needed to store follow-ups and things like that. You know, a follow-up in this sense is, you know, pressing the same button. You can see these are all chained together. Actually, make a new one just to show you real quick. So if we go along here, we start here and hit attack, attack, attack. It's going to do these actions right here. But the thing is that this is a whole new container class. And that's where like the real power comes in. You can see we can have these sort of similar attacks here. And so it's not dependent on the actual state itself, you know, our chain attacks here. Again, this is all code that we've already implemented, you know, with those indexed item attribute stuff. We don't use that exactly. You could, but a lot of that code that was necessary for that makes this a lot easier. So instead we hit attack 2, and you know we have this. Anyway, the point of this part of the journey is that we have this container class. And so that's a command step. It has an ID, which we'll need. Has an input command, which is something we've already used. And that's an input command is just a collection of an input, a raw input, and an action, you know, a state. And so now we have this global set of character states, but also command states. And so a command state isn't like a hard rule necessarily on a character. It's just where the input's going to be looking. So again, that's why we can be like in this attack here and not be totally governed by the rules of the attack. I mean, we are, which is good, but also so we can create these strings, maybe some more complicated stuff. You know, it's another way to govern the character. And it can just slot right in there, and like we just do it at the input level. It's really cool. I'm pretty excited about it. Any chatterinos? No, that's okay. So, and the real part of it is this here. Because already, you know, at that point, it's nothing that new. But now I have this list of follow-ups, and this is where, you know, it seems really obvious, but it was like really difficult for me to like understand. And you could actually, I have this, you know, in the actual command step class. It's my understanding that, and please tell me if I'm wrong, that in Unity here, you know, like they have Mecanum, and then you have these transitions right here, that they store those as a separate list. They're not necessarily, you know, tied to the thing that they're referencing, you know, the states that they're referencing, sorry. You know, I personally did it because I thought it made more sense when I was making it, but it wouldn't be that hard to make this, just like we have a big list of command steps or, you know, substates, to have their follow-ups, which are the transitions here. You know, they're in a separate list rather than in this command step class. They would just be outside of it, and you could manage it a little bit easier. I found that this still worked really good, so we'll go ahead and do it. So what is it? Well, it's just a list of integers, and these integers point to another state. Or excuse me, I was trying not to say that. Not a state, but another command step. So what's happening here, we'll go ahead and delete these. So if we go in here, we click on this, we can pick, you know, any of our current states. It won't do anything. It actually ignores it if you do 0 or do 3, or, you know, its own number. You can add or delete it. Delete actually gets rid of it. Then we can just pop it back in there. So we have 4 and 7 here. You know, you might find it easier, you know, like over here, you can just do make transition and drag it over. I didn't want to get into that yet, and it would be nice. But we'll go ahead and just do this. And so now these are connected. So I kind of got off track here. Where are we going? So follow-ups. So let's look at 3 here in the actual data. This might be obvious, but I think it'll help. What's funny, is that one already open? 3, yeah. So even, oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. We have this 0 state right here. And this is similar to Mecanum, where we have this base node here, and we hide it because it's not important necessarily. Anything that's not tied to a follow-up is the root class here, and it makes it just way easier to manage stuff as sort of a default class. You could have this is a lot of ideas I'm throwing at you, because when you go through your attacks, right, and you hit a button, you're kind of stuck in this state, right? Let's say, you know, we're on this second hit here. We also want to be able to sort of reference these ones. And if we're not necessarily knowing what state we're in, then we want to be able to default. And a real nice way to organize that is to have just a root node that you don't really use, but you look at this and then look at all of its follow-ups. So all of its follow-ups is everything that's not part of a chain necessarily. So if I delete this here, you'll see now it connects to here. And so now this is sort of a default one. You know, this is just a visualization for us. So now it's its own sort of floating one here. We'll go ahead and connect it again. And this is all really abstract. Just trying to cover all the bases here. So when we're going through the code, you know, we get our command state, and that's going to be this or this, and we'll go ahead and add a new one here, even though we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. Ooh, an error! I'm sorry. I tried to fix all those. Dude, seriously, I did so much testing. I was like really proud of this. Oh my god. Command state names. All right, let's check our error. So 46. Let's see here. 46. Supposed to fix that. Did I like double click or something? That's very strange because I'm not sure why that would be an error. Well, let's go to our data here. So this is kind of nice. You're gonna find this a lot when you're doing your own custom editor stuff. There's just lots of little things that happen. Look over here, we have this other command state. If we give it a name, will it? That might just be it. So that was a little bit of an oversight. So in our constructor, I guess it just said there was, I thought strings defaulted, but I believe that's what our problem was. Let's call it new state. Go ahead and save that, start over. I'm sorry. Let's make sure that works. Go ahead and go over here. I don't have a way to delete. This was sort of at the last minute, having this implementation here. I just wanted to focus on this. Sorry, I know I meander a lot. I hope this is all helpful to y'all still. To one here. So now we just have our basic one. New command state. Go over here. That must have been it. That's weird. Go ahead and call this Arial. Also, this text field is a little bit bugged out. You can see like I don't get, like if we look over here, we have this. I don't know. Editor stuff's weird. And I'd like it to be in the inspector instead over here. We'll get to that in another video though. So we have Arial, and like I mentioned, I actually don't have a way to set the flag over there. Go ahead and make this Arial here. Add a command. I had to click that twice because by default it doesn't make the base node yet, so sorry. Hit jump, and actually make this air jump, which is something I forgot. I covered also, because I actually recorded on that last week on Wednesday, but then I was like, this is garbage, and there's so many just mistakes, and just like now, only was like a million errors. Anyway, back to this. Get our command state. So we step through here, and we have a little list here. It's just 2 entries. It's an array, actually. And one is of the base state, base substate, which is this. And one is of our current state. A lot of times that's going to be the same. So what's the point of that? Well, the point is that we may want it to be quote unquote strict. So if we're here and we hit attack 1, then we're going to go here. And if we hit attack 1, we're going to do this attack. And if we hit attack 2, we're going to do this attack. But if we're here and we hit jump, we want to be able to do all of our other actions sort of by default. So one way to gate it, just for, you know, game design reasons, is to make it strict. And so that means it will only check the follow-ups in this one. So that's what this list is. This list is always your current step. And so when we step through here and cancel into these states, we end up in these steps. And actually, let's move this over here. Hopefully there's enough room to see still. I want to be able to run the game too. And it won't necessarily visualize on the right here, unfortunately. We'll just get it going here. It would be nice if that did visualize it. So if I mash X, you can hear me mashing. I'm mashing one button. So there's a bit of a bug already that I'm noticing. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Let's see here. I'm gonna watch my. So we're not resetting, which I totally fudged up. So if there's no follow-ups, it's supposed to reset. So I forgot. Hopefully this is right. I meant to put that in there. Sorry. And then this is another way you can gate it. We can make it so it doesn't auto loop. And so you could have maybe like a terminator where you have like an empty class where if you still hit attack, then nothing will come out. There's lots of ways to approach it. But we're gonna try and keep it basic. Anyway, try again. All right, cool. So now it's working. That was my bad. I thought I had that in there. So I'm mashing one button. You can see the input at the top there. All I'm mashing is attack 1. But we're alternating. We're doing down slash, up slash, down slash. What's happening is I'm going here, going here, going here. So I'm going to hit X jump. And so we attack and we jump cancel out of it. It would be nice if I visualize this. So we were here. Well, actually, we were just in our base state. We were here. And then I hit X. And so these two things right here don't really matter. This is just a base root node that is just there to organize these ones. Really, you can think of it like this. So we hit X, and it checks all of our states right here. Checks this one, that one looking for the jump button, it doesn't care. This one's looking for the secondary attack button, it doesn't care. This one's looking for the dash button, doesn't care. So all those get skipped. It actually goes in order, but for illustrative purposes, go here. Oh yes, we hit the attack button. So we'll go ahead and do this state. And it still goes through all the hoops and stuff of, it looks at this state and checks their, costs, meter and cooldown costs and stuff like that. So all that stuff still applies. And if you like, you could sort of decouple those concepts and put it into your substate, your move list substate stuff instead if you wanted. So anyway, we hit X and we're in this substate of our command list, our move list. And we're in this character state, chain attack 1. And then we hit jump. So, like mentioned, it checks our state here, all the follow-ups. So what it's actually looking at, we're in this state, and it's looking at all of these connectors. So it's looking at all these possibilities. So again, just looking at that at first, we go into this state. This one only has one follow-up, and that's attack. And yet, I hit jump, and we were able to cancel out of it. That's because we set it to not be strict. So what's happening here, again, is that it always checks your current state. So what it actually did is it checks this, all these follow-ups. There's only one. And then it checks our base state as well. And what you would want to do maybe for a fighting game, someone requested just a straight up fighting game tutorial, which I'll get to. Going to cover this. We got to complete, well, not complete this, but cover all the bases of what's in a character action game first. But it'll be exciting to cover that stuff too for a fighting game. Instead of having explicit like cancel states, you could have cancel rules, normal into special, but then still have these explicit ones, for like target combos and things like that. Anyway, we hit X, we attack, and we can jump cancel out of it. We can actually do anything that we can normally do. We could do the secondary attack, we could dash, we could jump. But if we attack again, and it always checks your current state first, that just makes it an easy way to prioritize it. That way we don't just loop back on ourselves. Because if we checked this first, it would send us back here, because it would hit C attack first, and send us back here. But it doesn't. It sends us here. So let's do that. So we'll hit // and we get that secondary attack. So now we're here. But if you'll watch the input and hear me mash, I'm mash and jump. When the attack finally ends, I can jump out of it. But if I mash attack, I can keep going. It lets me cancel out. That's because we set the strict flag on this one. Strict flag on this one. So if we got rid of that, now we can jump cancel out of it. And this is just for illustrative purposes. Obviously, like that would be shitty if you couldn't jump cancel out of your launcher. Like, what game are you making here? So what the strict flag does, and this is one of the reasons why I have this little list here. It's just a way to organize the data without having to create like a whole new like list of like potential like follow-ups. So it's just a way to organize being able to just keep things in arrays and just be able to iterate through them real easily. And also an easy way to not check on it. So, we check the follow-ups in our base state. Actually, that's what this one is. That's what 0 is. That's always our base state. And then our current command step. So again, we check our current one first. That's right here, if we were on that second attack. And, even though we couldn't jump cancel, we can still mash attack here and get that, or we can hit secondary attack there and get that launcher again. This would be way cooler if we had way more attacks. And because I've done so much preparatory work on this one, we can get into that. We'll do some animations. And I've showed this off before, and you probably, if you have any experience with animation, Blender has some really cool stuff. And actually, there's this little trick that I do that I liked it anyway, but then I realized when I was doing some other animations that didn't have that in there, I was like, oh snap, like that makes mirroring stuff really easy. So if you just need some filler content, or in Citadel Deep, if you use an attack twice in a row, some of them will do the same attack, but she sort of attacks, like instead of like going from right to left, she goes left to right. It's just a way to create variety. So either if you need filler or just want some variety, it's just really easy to make animations that where you can, in Blender, you can paste flipped on the x-axis. It's so nice. Anyway, we'll get to that. So we've about covered it. That was like a lot of talking, but actually changing to other states. So when we jump, so I jump and I start mashing attack, I can't do anything. But if I hit jump, jump, I get our air jump. Because when we jump, we, by our default that we've already set up, we have an aerial flag. So if I run off too, it gives it. You know what I mean? I hit jump. If I try attacking, I don't get anything. So we have this whole new state here. Similar to strict over here, you could make a whole new command state. That's just another option for you. It would depend on some things, like if you wanted something that's sort of independent of being aerial or not. It's just another way of doing it. If you have games that have like certain follow-ups and things, you might want that, but a lot of times you could get away with just having a state here. So let's say we have like a charged attack state, where like an Iaido stance, or just you're like really like chambered up your sword, and depending on different buttons, you get different attacks out of that. On the same note, you can get with that with our jump state here, or even like a dash. Like if we did a dash here and made this strict, we could have special follow-ups out of it. We could have a dash jump. Or, you just have that one follow-up with jump, so it just overrides our jump. Like I'm loving it. Like, it's so cool. Like, it took me a long time to get here, because I did a lot of stuff for Citadel Deep, and it just is embarrassing. Like, there's a new meme recently. I was like, let's see if I have, I might have some. NSF, not safe for stream pictures in there. Anyway, it has Jack Sparrow. He's like, I don't know, your code looks shitty. And he's like, but it runs. Anyway, it's going to illustrate some more stuff here. And you can do this at runtime too, which is nice. So if I hit jump, jump, we get that flip. And if I mash all this other stuff, nothing works. And just to illustrate, we actually get jump, jump here. Our jumps are still beholden to those other cancel rules, so that's why I also can't just mash jump and keep getting infinite jumps, because it's still this jump state itself, character state, as opposed to this command state, is still beholden to those jump rules. Go ahead and make it a little bit silly. Do chain attack, I'll mash jump, and I get an attack. The reason I could and you can see it's chaining into itself, which is as expected. So, and this one's actually air jump. So we'll go ahead and add a command, and then we have attack 1, and we could just make it this one, I suppose. So, you know, now we can make our air attacks different. We're hitting the same button. The amount of hoops and nonsense I have gone through for Citadel Deep is absurd. And the move list is a little bit different. I'd have to do a little bit of work around my own game. And we could set this up. It has sort of linear chains, and it keeps your spot in that chain even if you hit different buttons. So if you hit like XXX, it would do like the first 2 hits of like the X chain, or you could do XXY and it would do the first 2 hits of the X chain. And instead of splitting over here, it instead does the first hit of the Y chain and then holds your spot in there. It makes more sense for that game. So that's an option. If I think of it, I'll set that up in another video. But a lot of character action games are going to have this sort of philosophy instead. It's really generic and really fluid, with just a little bit more sort of gating commands in here, you know, restrictions and stuff, and also like being able to tag different states. You could get anything that you needed, basically. Even though it may not be the best way to do it for your game, you could do it still because it'd be so generic. I want to do a quick overview of how we set that up in the editor. And then I'll probably stop the stream and start again, and we'll just do some animating for fun, and then mess around with that. Because I'm trying to think if I missed anything. We could go through this code more specifically. So we have our cancel step list. That's just that quick list we make here. Oh, shoot. We update our input buffer. We've already gone through that in another video. I have this start state flag. It was just a helper here to break out. I can't remember if that was in there or not. But basically, if we... I think it was. I think it had to have been because we were doing all this stuff. Anyway, it means if for sure... Because we kind of will check through a lot of moves, and we have to make sure, you know, if we can hit cancel it, if we have enough meter and all this stuff. And then if for sure, we're going to use this move, then we'll set that to true. Then we get our command state. Again, we just default it to 0. We go through all these states. And right now, we just have a flag. So if our aerial flag matches the command state's aerial flag, then we'll go ahead and go into that state instead. So when we're aerial, this is our new move list. And again, like with being able to tag or flag certain things, you'd be able to make groups of like special moves or based on different weapons and things like that. You could get real creative and fun. So find out what state we're in, set a command state. Do I even use this one? To our command states in the core data. Just set that up. Had some like helper classes in there. Here's a little catch-all, and I have a note here. This is something I wanted to mention. If our command step is greater than the current state's command step, so right now we just have one current command step. It's just you know, an index integer to say what state we're in here, what command state, substate. You know, we're in 5. So we're in command state 5. We do this heavy attack, and we jump cancel into aerial. We don't actually have a little bit of that error we got actually might fix that a bit, but it might not. There might be an outlying case. So we jump cancel here, and now we're in state 5. Well, we only have 2 states. It's actually 3 if we do that. So now, you know, we get an error. So that's just a bit of a catch there. Like I mentioned, you may want some sort of system of having grouped like substates kind of. or just in your substate having your own, command state having separate integers for that. So for your aerial state, you would have your current state, and for your grounded, so you'd have current grounded state, grounded.current state or aerial.current state. Long-winded way of saying that, sorry. So we set that list. So, we do this first as our little catch-all. Again, I think that might fix it, what we did down there. We set our first substate to our current command step, which is the one we just canceled into last. And then the second one is our default one. So we always like to check that default one. Again, just everything that falls into that base node here, these two. So we set that up just so it's aligned easily. Sorry, I got a little bit itch here. Everything's in these nice arrays. We can gate things that we don't want to check yet. We could just check every state. But with having it set up like this, it optimizes it. And in my experience, I haven't had an issue with that at all. I mean, I have had some move lists that have just like tons and tons of moves. And it's going through like a 20 frame deep input buffer, and it's checking against all of them every single frame with like no impact on performance. So, but it's nice to have it that way. So we go through there. So cancel step list. So we check the follow-ups. So that's what we're really looking for. So the follow-ups are an input command, basically. And input command, again, is just an input with a state. So we check our current state, their follow-ups, which are these. So on this one, we have the 2 follow-ups. Or again, if we're in our base state, we check all of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4 different checks. So that's what we're really iterating through. Each one of these. And just some ways to hold those variables. Next step, just iterating through all those. It's not that interesting. And this other stuff we've already done. So go ahead and hide that again. Just a couple other helpful things I did. You may prefer this instead. So we have center to center. This is just different ways to draw the X on there, because the X just deletes it. Maybe go back in there. See it more clearly like that. Get that follow up. We can do center to center. We can do end to end, just like that, which looks really cool too. And you could do more draw types if you like, or you can do Bezier end to end. So now it's like that. What's really cool, this is just an aside, is that this just draws between the 2 center points, but all these implementations draw the X at the center of the line. Math is amazing. It's pretty cool. This code does not change. All I'm doing is drawing the lines different, and the X's are just drawn in between the 2. It's pretty cool. There's some others if you did sort of like a drop down into the side, if you wanted a hierarchy like that, that wouldn't add up. You'd have to change the code a bit. Not that that's that important. I just thought it was cool. So if you want to learn how to make your own editor window, there's tutorials on that. So I'm going to skip that part. You make a new class, you pop it in your editor. I'll do a quick, it's a script. It has to be in your assets/editor folder. And so that way it runs it different. And that way you can use Unity editor stuff here. And inherits from editor window. There's the standard stuff that you put in here. And what that lets you do, go ahead and close it. We can go to window, we can do our move list editor. That'll pop it up there. Grab it by the tab, throw it in there, anchor it, or dock it rather, I think what they call it. Grab a drink of water here. We're talking a lot. Do I even use these anymore? Sorry, I had some old code in here that I don't think I even use. That compiles okay. Clear it up. Sweet. mess around with it just a little bit to be double sure that it does. Oh, I forgot to mention some implementation here. You hit add command up here to add a new one. And again, a command is a set of inputs and states. Don't want to go into hits done. When you click on here, that's how you add a new connection. You can also add one, because I found it easier, by going here. That way it copies the button and the state. And generally you're not going to want the same state, but it also places it next to it. It's just a little bit of a helper function there. And then there's also a delete. A thing to mention, given the nature of this, they just get deactivated. Right now, our max is like 8 or whatever, and so when we hit add command or add here, it does make a new one. But the only way to truly delete them is to go in here, because if we went in here and deleted state 3, you know, the follow-ups get cleared up, that's fine. But if we deleted it in a standard, you know, list.remove at, then it would change all of our indices. Indices? How do you say it even? And that would just fudge up everything. You could make a really complex helper script, and it's like, I'm not going to do that. I'll just deactivate it. So go ahead and add it again, and you can see that's why it's kind of in the same spot there. And I don't know why I'm doing that, but I did it. So anyway, we hold our core data here. We have a scroll view. This is something you can look up on how to do that. These are just some little helper functions and stuff. Main thing I want to mention is, again, you can look this up, and this code is just going to be available. We draw the lines first, so it's a little bit inelegant. You kind of have to iterate through them twice. But it's also another, maybe, I don't know, argument for having the transitions, or the, you know, follow-ups as we call it, in its own managed list, because you could just draw that. Anyway, they're drawn first so that they're behind. So when we go like this, you know, they're always behind. So this is all just gobbledygook. What we're really doing is just, you can look the stuff online. I don't even know I went through this part. We're just drawing all these windows. There's these helper functions for being able to drag it. And then just like our little helper things in here, we just do the same thing in those windows, these window functions. And it just lets us do what we're doing. Nobody in the chat? It's okay. Oh, where are we going? 42 minutes already. I like to ramble, don't I? Feel like I'm missing something, but don't believe I am. Yeah. We want to make this cooler, though, so we're going to go ahead and stop the stream. But we will start it back up. But given the nature of that, thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. Support has been great. Please consider giving at least $1 a month to patreon.com/cultureattack. There are backer rewards, but our mission here is to provide free and open info. I know I say that a lot. So I like to share this stuff. I hope other people share their ways of doing it. I don't want to put any... I don't know. I do this a lot where it's like, I don't want to put anyone on blast, but let me put this dude on blast. But I just get this mentality among peers and people. I think I can keep this vague enough. I have a really good friend. He's like my longest internet friend. I don't want to name drop because I do that again. I do that a lot, but he's a wonderful man and he's made some cool games. I love him very much. And he was working on a game, you know, he's like, I need some help with like how to do like special commands. I don't even know that he has, you know, like fighting games type special commands. And there's this other friend who, you know, I got introduced to him through my first friend, who's still a great friend. He's like, you know, you could license my engine. And I'm like, huh. Like, it was my understanding that you were great friends. Like, I don't know. It was just mercenary. I don't know. And I don't like that. You know, honestly, I don't know. I felt a little bad about just like saying, and maybe this person will be identified, but that's not who we are here. Like, I don't want to necessarily say what they did was bad, but that's super not who I want to be here. I love sharing information. I want others to do the same. I want people to be able to just grab code and do this stuff, make it better. Um, I guess that's why I wanted to go through the code if you needed help, but just message me. It's not part of the video. Anyway, thank you all so very much. I love you all very much. The support's been great, continues to be great. That covers it for this topic today, but we're gonna stop the stream, start it up again, and just work on some animations just for some fun. So, thanks so much. Catch you later. Oh, as always, this will be available for download on the YouTube video. All right, sweet. Catch you later.